Hey guys, it's Doc and I've got a pickup video for you for this week. I'm doing it a little bit differently this week. We're going to do a little bit of a flip book type of thing where you'll see me sometimes and you'll see the books the rest of the time. But let's go ahead and dig in because I've got a massive amount of books this week. So let's see what we're starting with. All right, guys, we finally have the final issue of the first part of Batman Hush 2 by Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair. And it's got this amazing Jim Lee cover on it, and this is the giant size. I collected all of the other giant size, so I kind of had to get this one. But just look at the amazing artwork by Jim Lee. Yes, it took forever. Yes, his artwork is about 3/4 of what it was 20 years ago when they did Hush, but it still has that majesty and that power and his absolute mastery of physical form. So if you have the opportunity, if you get the chance, go ahead and pick this book up. If you've been getting the other giant-sized books, you will not be disappointed. All right, guys, that is the beginning of it. Now for the book of the week, let's go ahead, slide Bats out of the way. And for the book of the week, I have Swamp Thing issue number 89, also known as Swamp Thing 1989 issue 2. This is written by Rick Veitch with art by Tom Mandrake and colors by Trish Mulvihill. And this is not a greatest hits because it's a continuation of one of the greatest hits books that have ever come out. But you get to see where Rick was going to go with his time travel story. And I don't know who the artist was going to be on this issue. Perhaps it was going to be Tom Mandrake back in the day. I don't know. But this is the first original part. It's almost like a Miracle Man type situation where we have an original part to this time travel story. And the gist of it is you're getting back to Abby having her baby, being pregnant with Tefe. You're getting back to John Constantine, and he goes back, "I'm a nasty piece of work, Chief. Ask anybody." And so that's the kind of thing that Sir Justin the Shining Knight expected to hear. But this panel right here from Tom Mandrake just takes you back. Takes you back to the swamp. Takes you back to Abby and Chester. And at the end of the issue, Tom Mandrake talks about, look at the lines on these branches. They look very much like Alfredo Alcala, who was the inker of the original books years ago. And unfortunately, he passed away from cancer, I think back in 2000. But he inked a lot of the Alan Moore all the way through Rick Veitch, all the way through, I think, issue 100, 101, before leaving. And then he ended up getting cancer and passing away. But you get to see the Shining Knight try to protect Swamp Thing, try to bring him back home. And it's kind of like a chase where he keeps chasing the Swamp Thing, who ends up in the time of Anthro, who was a Joe Kubert, I believe, creation. And I actually bought, back in my 20s, I bought some of the Anthro books to go back and read that story, to try to finish the story that Rick had started. And I was one of those guys on Comic-Con.com way back in the day that would have the hubris to think that I could finish something as good as this. And in the end, you don't really know where Swamp Thing is going to be, because it appears that he ended up going all the way back to the Big Bang. And And that's where he told Justin, Sir Knight, tell Abby that I'm sorry and tell her that I loved her. And so you get a sense of nostalgia with this book, even though it's brand new. All of the pages, all of the ads, even the newsprint type paper that they used sends you back to a much simpler time. And I've got all of the original Alan Moore trades. I've got the trades for Rick Vetch all the way up until they stopped. And I do have book 3 coming of the new printings of Swamp Thing, which will have these issues in there to finally tell the complete story that Rick wanted to tell of the time travel saga. But guys, it's beautiful, and I don't really know what else to say about it, except if you have read those original Swamp Thing books by Rick and Company, you need to read this. It will absolutely take you back and help you travel into a much simpler, innocent, happy time. All right, guys, and this next book is Void Rivals, issue number 30. It is the Quintesson War, part 6 of 6, with Robert Kirkman as writer, Andre Bresson as penciler and inker, and D. Kniff as the colorist. And it was a lot going on, but the main thing you need to know is that Derek suffers a very, very personal loss. And it pushes him by the end of the book to grow, to become so much more than he ever thought he could become. You get to see Zerta Tryon trying to convince Salila that she needs to, try to fight for her. It says there's a vessel, alien origin, that can leave largely undetected from this land. It is preparing to leave Zertonia as we speak. You must hurry. The Quintesson Tribunal sets his sights on Zertonia now. So I enjoyed this book, and I have enjoyed this book, but unfortunately this is going to be the last issue that I collect of Void Rivals as well as Transformers, because I've just got to cut back. My hours at work have cut back pretty severely, and with buying that ASM #1, which I will never, ever, ever regret, unfortunately, a lot of these books that even the ones I loved, like Void Rivals, there's going to be other books. The next book I'm going to talk about is one that I just picked up a few issues ago, and my friend Mike recommended it to me, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But I don't know that I'm going to do more than maybe 1 or 2 more issues of that and then let that go as well. And that book is Superman, issue number 38, with Superboy Prime meeting Witchfire. And Witchfire looks like she's going to be a villain, but instead she's trying to... What did she say to Prime? Let's see. Oh, she says... you seem so nice, and I need an innocent person for a spell. He's like, innocent? Read it back, issue lady. I don't think anybody would call me innocent. And so they tell you the origin of Witchfire, and it says that I found an old spell book when I was a kid, and it tied me to a bunch of supernatural forces. Those forces led me to lots of things. I became a stunt driver, singer, witch. After that, I met Wonder Woman, and I became a superhero. That was when I joined the power company. And it says, I've died a few times, but I always found my way back to the land of the living. So it's like a date, except she's trying to, she's got a purpose. And in this panel, or this page, is kind of great because everything's upside down. So you actually have to flip the book upside down to read it. The artwork by Dan Mora is on point. The writing by Mark Waid is on point, and I hate to not keep this book going, but at the same time, I just don't think that I can. But look at this artwork, guys. Look at this. This is just absolutely stunning. And as much as Dan Mora enjoyed drawing the Transformers, I get the feeling that he enjoys drawing Superboy Prime, Superman Prime just as much. But that book is an absolute blast. So for those of you that are still reading it and continue to read it in the future, I hope that you continue to enjoy it. This book continues to break my heart because it's a very personal story. Paul Jenkins has talked about it. He read about Laika, the Russian dog who was sent up in the satellite back in the 60s, I believe, and it hit him internally. He said, I can't save this dog. I couldn't have saved this dog. And Sentry is losing his watchdog. He's dying. And the Sentry says, I can't save him. What good am I? And he's still having a crisis of conscience because he's thinking that every good deed that he does as the Sentry is negated by an evil deed from the Void, which is his alter ego, his villain persona, if you will. And the Hulk is one of the few characters that Bob Reynolds, aka the Sentry, could ever get along with on a regular basis, and he was one of the ones that could calm him down. Meanwhile, we have subplot B going on here, and Wilson Fisk has been sickened and is at the point of death, and so one of his generals says, as a safeguard, if any of you prays to a god, I suggest you do it tonight, because if Mr. Fisk dies, so do we. So he had gathered all of the dirt on all of his generals that he could over the years to bring them down, and so if he goes down, so will they. But to see the Sentry struggle so much just to go through losing an animal, it's very humanizing and very humanistic, and it's very natural. And even his wife is having a hard time saying goodbye. But he eventually, as Reed Richards looks for the Sentry, he eventually takes him to a shelter. And he says, once upon a time there was a little dog, and her name was Laika. Laika was a very good dog, just like you. And just like you, she could fly. One day she went to space, but she couldn't come back, just like you. He says, I love you so much, little man. He's gone. So what is to be the fourth and final issue of the Sentry? Is he going to give in to the Void after losing one of the most important people in his life? Or is he going to continue to fight the good fight and try to find a way to be a hero? All right, next up we have Green Lantern, issue number 35. And to be honest, as much as I like this book, it's kind of on the edge of the chopping block as well, because I don't like Kyle Rayner as much as I like Hal Jordan. And if Hal Jordan's not in the book, or at least not in the book as a full-time cast member, I don't know that I'm interested enough to keep on with this title. The story with Green Lantern and Odyssey here is interesting, though, because it looks like this. Who does this guy look like to you? If you watched scary movies in the 80s, doesn't it look like Dr. Giggles? And I just thought that was funny. But they're trying to get rid of Odyssey's. She's got an eye, like a star next to her eye, kind of like Cable. And they said, we gotta get rid of that. We gotta hide it if you're gonna be a big movie star. See, it's kind of right there. And so you've got that storyline going on. Meanwhile, Hal is trying to figure out where the Book of Oa is sending him. So he is in the background, but he's not the main character of the title. And so I'm not really a fan of secondary GLs other than I like John Stewart, I like Guy Gardner, but for whatever reason, I just don't like Kyle as much as I used to. So I don't like the idea of reading a book that is Kyle-centric. But we'll continue on with this. That's issue 35. I'll give it till about issue 40, and then we'll see if Hal comes back. I have a feeling that Jeremy is going to keep Hal away until almost issue 50, and I'm just not sure that I'm going to hang on quite that long. All right, we're getting down towards the bottom of the pile, guys. We only have 2 more books to talk about after this. This is Corpse Night, issue number 2 by Michael Chavez and Matthew Roberts. And you have the continuing story of Foy and her father, who was killed in the last issue, but he rose to become her zombie protector. And they set off on this journey. And one of the elders says, let's see. Okay, I found Joan of Arc. They're here. I was with them just 2 days ago, but I'm afraid that even with the horses, you won't get to them. They're moving fast, and they have the English on the run. And she said, well, what if we cut through here? And apparently here is a dangerous, it's the forest of Rambouillet. Locals say it's overrun by some kind of evil, and no one who goes in gets out alive. So then they go through the forest of Rambouillet because her father is already dead, so he will do anything to protect his daughter. And eventually you do see these swordsmen attack the Corpse Knight and try to kill him, even revealing his very scary Conan-esque face. And in the end, they thought they killed him, but he rose. The colors in this book, man, the colors. Look at the, like World of Sunset, World of Twilight type colors right there. How amazing is that? That purple and pink and the beauty that comes out of this book. So that book, even though I just found out that it is a miniseries, so it's only 6 issues, I believe, but it's absolutely gorgeous. The story is enthralling. It pulls you in. And what I'm trying to do also is keep it where it's not everything that I'm saving is superhero stuff, because I've read so many rich stories like Corpse Night, The Seasons, which unfortunately I did let go of. And I'm trying to think what else. So many great independent titles that have nothing to do with superheroes. And I hate that, time and money are an object. I wish that they were not. But hey, maybe I can go back and pick up some of those books here in the next 2 or 3 months if time prevails. Conan the Barbarian, issue 31. I have to give you a one-handed clap since I'm holding the camera, but Jim Zub and Doug Braithwaite, you guys did an amazing job on this book. It's the final fight between Conan and the Son of Tooth. And the Son of Tooth shows him exactly how much of a formidable foe he is. He can kill somebody with his sword, and then he absorbs their soul. And as he absorbs their soul, he gets stronger. I'm not going to tell you anything else about this book, but my God, this book was the second book on my pile, the second one that I read. And it was hands down, if you're looking for just an all-out, knock-out, drag-out battle, it's one of the best books that I've ever read. And Doug Braithwaite just gets better with every single issue. All right, guys, and here we have the finale, part 1, part 1 of Batman Hush 2. And you get to see, again, all of this beautiful artwork from Jim Lee. You get to see Hush trying to attack Batman. You get to see Batman thrown into the Lazarus pit. There is so much going on here, guys, and it leaves on very much of a cliffhanger. It just blows my mind what kind of cliffhanger it ends on, but it says that it will be continued in another 6 issue, but it's a mini-series, so that it doesn't mess up the continuity and the numbering of the Batman title. Plus, who knows when Jim Lee will have the time to finish, the next 6 issues. But that book did, even though a lot of the punch around it has gone, it did not disappoint. And I really did enjoy it. And I really can't wait again to get into the giant sized version of it here a little bit later. Okay, and the last book that I picked up this week that we'll do a greatest hits on is Batman The Dark Knight Returns issue 4. And it kind of gives it away here at the bottom. But we'll talk about that more by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson and Lynn Varley in an upcoming video. And guys, that is it for my pickups this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought about the video and the content. Like and subscribe if you have not, and I will catch you guys in an upcoming video very, very soon. Take care, guys, and have a great day.